Okay, you've received your machine, and now we're going to go over the major components. Basically, label reel core holder, liner take up. Right down here is the label edge sensor, which we'll get into just a little bit later. This puts a little tension on the label as it's being dispensed for application. This is your applicator box, applicator fan, and this white Teflon piece down here is known as the applicator foot. Now, this is called the peel bar. You have your label guides, and possibly on some machines you may have one back here also. This is your liner take up start and stop. You can see that right now it does not operate, but if I put a little tension down there, you'll see that it tries to turn. What happens is this roller slides up and down in some slides. It hits a sensor down here, and when it gets to the bottom, it basically turns this motor on to take up the waste take up. Okay, before we power our machine on, now we're going to take a look at the other major components that may or may not have come with your kit. Basically, I'm going to pan over here. I'm going to move in a little bit. Now this setup here is a standard photoelectric setup. Now basically what you have with your machine is you're going to have a trigger photo eye. Now the trigger photo eye may or may not look like this, but most of them will. They're going to be a small little unit, and when you get your machine, what you want to do is basically get this assembly mounted on your conveyor, and it may or may not be this assembly. What you're going to have is a reflector bracket, and you're going to have a photo eye mount bracket. Now what you want is basically your product coming down the conveyor, moving down your conveyor to break this beam across here that the photo eye sees. When that beam is broken, it's going to apply a label. Okay, the photo eye that I just previously showed you is known as the trigger photo eye. Here again. Now this is our little test rig, has a little reflector down here, and we just have some simple mounts for when we're back here in the shop. Now I'm going to set this up right in here. And basically position it so that the photo eye is pointing at the reflector. Now you have some adjustments on this photo eye. Right back here, the small blue dot is going to be the sensitivity adjustment. So if your photo eye is not seeing your reflector, just increase your sensitivity, turn that pot clockwise, and it will eventually see the reflector. The other larger pot is a 1/3 turn pot, and it changes it from light operate to dark operate. Basically what you should see when you turn the machine on and you're using a reflective photo eye, is you should see a situation like this. You should see a green light. That means that this reflector is, or this photo eye is seeing this reflector. Now, when this gets broke, you will see an output light. Okay? You see that light, that little orange light that came on. Okay. So as I said, this is called the trigger. It triggers the labeling sequence. I'm going to pan over here just a bit. I'm going to move this over here so that you can see me triggering the machine. Now you see a label coming over and being applied right here. I'll do another one with this in there just so that you can see another one is being applied. It happens rather quick. Okay, now as you can see, the label comes down, gets applied pretty much straight and in the same spot every time. Okay, now we're going to talk about the setup of your label in the machine. Now, your label may or may not be this small square. It may be an oblong. It could be an oval. It could be a sculptured label. That's just going to depend on your wants and needs. Now, the two main items that I want to show you is the label edge sensor. Okay, this senses this gap that is between the labels. And basically what it is it's another photo eye just through beam this way, very sensitive, very fast, and it looks through the paper opacity and it knows the difference between, it's able to see through the paper here and not see through the paper here. Now this is a very important little guide. Basically you have a slide adjustment here where you can adjust it so that your label ends up on this applicator foot correctly. Now I'm going to show you the adjustment for that. Basically you can loosen these two screws off right here, slide this back and forth, and I'll show you how I want you to set up the label to come out on your applicator head. Okay, this item here is the peel bar that we talked about in the machine before. It's just out of the machine right now for training purposes. Now this is a small sculptured label, and basically on your peel bar you're going to have an adjustment so that when you put your label in there, you don't want the web rocking back and forth on you. You don't want it moving around on you. So basically adjust that just so you have a tiny bit of play and not too tight. Now basically to get a label to run through, what you're going to do is adjust the proximity of that label edge sensor we just talked about, and this material in the machine actually wraps back around this peel bar. Okay, now as the machine pulls the material through, you're going to see a little label edge come off of here, and it's going to be peeled right here. Okay, what we want is you to adjust it so that when the machine stops the label in its stop position, we want this edge right up there on the peel bar. In other words, this leading edge of the label, and I'll move this one, this leading edge of the label right here needs to be at the end of the peel bar. It can be a hair back, it can be a hair forward. It's not hugely critical, but we basically want it coming off just a bit, and I'll show you that from a side view. So that's going to be the adjustment lengthwise for your label. Okay, the other adjustment for the label edge sensor is going to be calibration. Now, in your instructions, I've sent you should have a quick start guide, and you should also have a document on an LER label sensor. All right. Both of those documents tell you how to calibrate this, but I'm going to go ahead and show you. The easiest way to calibrate this label edge sensor is to come up here, peel off a label that is under the label edge sensor. Now, I don't know if you noticed or not, but when I did that, there was no red light here. Now there is a red and a green light. To calibrate this, what you want is liner paper only, and you'll see there's a little cross on top of here, which that's where the little photoelectric is. You want liner paper only in that little cross. Now to calibrate this, there is a button located right back here, and that's called out on your quick start guide. You press it for 3 seconds, and you saw this blink and stop. Basically, right now, the label edge sensor is calibrated. You can see how it came up and stopped on the next label edge. Looks good, huh? Okay, now we're going to go through the adjustments of the label applicator itself. This is a label applicator, and I want you to take a look. This is set up basically for this label right here. You can see this row of jets and this row of jets, and basically what they do is they have a little air pressure behind them that lasts for a very short cycle time, and it actually blows the label down. Now, to get this to work effectively, what you want is when the label drives out, and remember the applicator foot, this is the white Teflon foot, you want that label centered on this box. So basically you always have a center line. You will see it, there's a crown in this, and these jets can be moved back and forth by loosening these two screws. We're going to show you that in a minute. I just want you to be familiar with what you have up under that applicator. So basically, no matter what type of label you have, a set of jets has been configured for your label. So basically what you want to see up under that applicator is when that label is sitting there like this, you want that row of jets to be centered over that label in both directions, both this way and this way. When that happens, you're going to blow that label straight down every time. Okay, now we're going to cover how to adjust the label applicator. Basically, the label applicator height up and down has already been pre-adjusted for you. But if it's been knocked around in shipment, basically what you want is you want this nose right here, this sharp nose of the peel bar, 2/3 of the way up on this little bevel right here. So if it's been knocked around, reset it to that position. Now, I'm going to show you a label blow down with the nozzles in the correct position. I'm going to show you another one. It put it right on top of it. Now I want you to look and see what happens when I move this adjustment, and basically what that's going to do is it's going to move these jets back and forth in this label applicator box. Now keep your eye on this label position, both where it's stacked up right there. Now I'm going to make an adjustment, and on this small label, on a very small label like this, it's going to be an ever so slight adjustment. I just barely moved that. I moved it maybe 1/16 of an inch. So notice I moved this 1/16 of an inch that way, and now my label is blowing out that way. That's because my jets are off center on the label. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it the other way. And you can see now by moving it the other way that I'm off center the other way, so my labels are shooting back. Okay, so basically what you want to do is get those jets centered up over that label, and now you can see, I've been doing this a long time, it's not going to go that quick for you. You can see that that label is going to blow down straight. I'll move this a little bit so we can do a new stack. I'm going to go ahead and tighten that down because I like where it's at. Okay, that concludes that direction of adjustment for the label applicator box. Okay, to get your label applicator centered over the label in this direction, remember we moved the jets to get it centered in this direction, and to get it centered in this direction, very simple, loosen these two bolts off. This whole assembly, the whole box, slides on these slides, and it's an ever so slight adjustment. Remember, it doesn't matter how big your label is, this adjustment is ever so slight. So basically what you need to do is take a look up under there when a label is sitting there on the vacuum plate. See how far off center that label is, or out of center, and basically adjust this left to right half the distance that you're off center on the bottom. You're going to get real close that way. And then after that, what you want to do, and the easiest way to do it for me is to loosen them off, and I just take the butt end of a screwdriver and I just tap on it to do fine adjustment. It's very, very simple. The whole machine is very, very simple and should work well for you. Okay, now just a couple of cleanup items on the machine just to give you an overall view. The label threading is important. Please take a look at your quick start guide to thread the labels properly. Now, when threading the labels, this little lever right here, basically flip that guy up and he releases the tension on your drive rollers back here so that you can bring the paper in and slide it right in. Flip him back and he locks in place. Now I'm going to turn the machine off now. And to remove the liner take up, 2 fingers here, thumb right here, pull directly out. Okay, so you're going to have, and this is small, but when you do it, it's going to be like this big. So basically all you want to do is pop that back in place. Make sure that you come around this roller here. Slide it between the bars there. You can turn the machine back on. And you saw that turn until that roller right there unmade the sensor that's in the back, as we discussed earlier. Basically, it's a very easy machine to operate. Your first couple of weeks are going to be your hardest because you're going to make mistakes. And one more item on this video, which I'm going to get to, but I'm going to have to pull the machine out of the test area where I have it to show you, is the most common mistake. So be ready for that coming up. Okay, as you can see from this view, this is up under the applicator head here. Here's your peel bar. This is called the air assist bar. Across this little brass bar, there are a bunch of very, very tiny holes. And basically what that's for is it turns on when the label drive motor turns on. And what it does is most labels that when you peel them off a sharp edge, they want to nosedive on you. And basically what that air assist bar does is when they try and nosedive on you, it blows air up and gets that leading edge to come up onto the vacuum plate. Now, the most common mistake when threading labels into the machine is you will bring your label web material and you won't be careful and you'll wrap it around here. That is the most common mistake. Like I say, in the first couple of weeks, you're probably going to do it 2 or 3 times without realizing it. But make sure that you get it between here, the peel bar, and between the air assist bar. Your machine's going to work much, much better for you. And with this view, I'm just going to stick my hand up here and run a few labels so that you can see the action up there. Basically, that's how the machine's supposed to work. If you have any questions, my name is Gary. You can give me a call. Thanks for your time.